Thank you for having me. It's delightful, and whilst I am in UCD myself as the program director there, there is nothing more important to an entrepreneur than an ecosystem. So we could just start there with the more connected you are, the more people you know in the different areas, the pre-accelerators, the accelerators, et cetera, and onwards, the VCs, the angel investors, all of that stuff. Very often we don't have the time as entrepreneurs to build in that ecosystem. So to be thinking about that right from the get-go of who do I know, where are my leverage points, who do I know in what industries, and how do I need to get out there? But before we even get into any of that, I thought I might start with just the sort of the opening statement that entrepreneurs are literally the lifeblood of Ireland at the moment, and going to be more and more so. We are the risk takers, sometimes calculated risk takers, sometimes not. The problem solvers, the boundary pushers, the creatives, those that take ideas, that very thing of sense of alchemy of taking an idea and making it into something real. Having said that, ideas are not businesses, and you do need support. And part of my role in UCD as the program director in innovation, entrepreneurship, and creativity is to actually help people come in, like Further Do and many other organizations, help you explore what it means to be an entrepreneur, that entrepreneurial mindset, and help you maybe get unstuck. For those that lean into entrepreneurialism, it's usually that there's something, a niggling feeling, a something else in you that you think this 9 to 5 or whatever it is not enough. So it being not enough, what does that mean? There's something else. There's a little fire in your belly, maybe, or just a sense of curiosity about exploring about, can I help be part of what's going on? And it is a very exciting place to be. It's also quite terrifying sometimes when things like AI come into the scene and you're like, everything is changing. So we are helping shape that future, but also we're driving innovation across every single sector. So tech, tourism, green energy, sustainability, creativity, non-tech stuff, the social entrepreneurship, driving society, helping people solve problems everywhere. So what do we need to do that? Well, we need a sense of agility and resilience. We also need to know that we have grit. The idea of failing fast and failing often comes into it very often. But when we thrive as entrepreneurs, Ireland thrives. And we can see that. We're a very small place of 5.5 million people, soon to be 7 million by 2050. And we're agile and small enough to be able to do things economically, culturally, and socially that are exciting. So that's the that's the opening statement. But what I'm going to be doing here as well today is exploring why an entrepreneur might not be what you think it is. Okay. So in terms then of some slides that I have, and it certainly won't be death by PowerPoint, I want to talk to you a little bit about where entrepreneurialism has taken me. So I didn't think I was a natural entrepreneur, to be honest. I'm an anthropologist. I went through the social sciences. I went back to college at 37. I had a baby at the same time. I thought that was a great idea to just do all of these things. And I was stuck. I was waitressing with huge amounts of experience and many jobs. And I just thought, there's got to be more for me than this. And I wanted to carve out a new future for myself. Entrepreneurs tend to have a few commonalities. And one of them is that they aren't really afraid to lean into things that other people may be afraid of. When I look back, thinking that I didn't think I was an entrepreneur, I can see all the entrepreneurial endeavors that I sort of tried or leaned into over the years, starting with age 15, selling sandwiches to people that were working next to the school where I was playing hooky from, who were building another building. And I used to sell them the first meal deal, which was a sandwich, a can of Coke, and a Mars bar. And I made more money doing that than I did in any other job that I did for the subsequent years. So I can see that there was something in me that was sort of about being brave or being daring. Cut forward to now, 56. Where am I currently at? Well, like I said, I went back to college at 37. So I had a master's for 10 years up until that point. I'd been traveling around the world and I knew that there was more grow in me this sort of sense of I want to have multiple revenue streams. I want to do different things. I'm quite good at spinning different plates. And so yes, I have a 9 to 5, which is my academic job, but I also am an entrepreneurial specialist and have roles in other things. But my absolute favorite thing is to help people get unstuck and mentor them a little bit into the future. Little did I know all of these endeavors of 8 years in the Innovation Academy, before that, social justice in UCD, before that, in Trinity doing a PhD, and before that, 30 jobs, 40 jobs maybe before that. Now I'm currently in the situation of being the program director in the Innovation Academy, designing jobs for the world of work that doesn't yet exist, which is a wonderful challenge and exciting work. Some commonalities in all of that. Critical thinking, a healthy mistrust of everything, the ability to see things other people can't, and to be extremely curious, and to realize that this too shall pass. So whatever is coming, more changes will come on the back of that. 2 years ago, was speaking at a Women in STEM conference, and at that Women in STEM conference, I was talking about why are all the entrepreneurs looking at creating shiny new tech? Why are they the ones getting funded? What about those who are solving society's problems? What about people that are literally helping us flourish as a society? And a lady there was in the audience and said, I'm from Science Foundation Ireland, now Research Ireland, and we're making a show on this very thing. 2 years later, this is currently where I'm at.
The same is true of everything we plan for Futureville. Affordable, desirable housing. A city that works with nature, not against it. That uses new technology to solve old problems. These ideas might sound too ambitious, too difficult to achieve, but we can make them happen. And by 2050, they'll seem like solutions that were obvious all along. We can choose to create an Ireland where we all afford somewhere to live, that provides care to those who need it, that respects the natural world we all share. Because Irish research has given us the knowledge and the skills to build Futureville. Not just in Athlone, but in your town, wherever it is.
So incredible opportunity for me there. Sorry, in terms of that. But we just finished wrapping for RTE, the second series. It'll be out on the 11th, 12th, and 13th of Science Week. It's a collaboration between Research Ireland and RTE. And what it looks at is if we can, if last series was, which is plug on the player, still, we looked at the housing crisis, we looked at education and health. This one looks at the impact of AI and plus, and what everyone else in Europe and beyond are doing in terms of research, the kind of lives they're creating. This is entrepreneurialism in action, innovation in action. So where are we currently at in Ireland, and how can you lean in to be part of what is a very exciting present to future? Well, it's quite a vibrant ecosystem, but it's also quite vulnerable. We're certainly vulnerable to the tariffs. We've been very vulnerable to any geopolitical changes, of course. And then we have the rising costs, the energy, the wages, the recruitment. The biggest issue in any industry at the moment is talent acquisition and talent retention. So the margins are getting squeezed, especially for SMEs, and there's a skills crunch. This is limiting our growth across ICT and green energy and medtech sectors. So as much as we have the impetus and the research and the ability to do these things, our growth is limited and our scaling is limited accordingly, which is why things like Enterprise Ireland exist and beyond. But yet, despite all of these, we still rank among Europe's most entrepreneurial nations, with 1 in 7 adults aspiring to start a business. I think that's tipping even further, because I can see from my undergrads, we offer in UCD an elective called Essentials of Entrepreneurship, and it's just more and more in demand all the time, where people are starting to think, okay, maybe there isn't one job for life. And to be honest, they're right. Maybe I need to have an extra revenue stream on the side. What would that look like? We used to call it a side hustle or a nixer. Now they're called entrepreneurial endeavors. So, but it's the same. It's the idea of, can I have multiple revenue streams? And we saw this during COVID, to make sure that I'm okay if one sector is impacted unexpectedly. And so we do have a lot of opportunities, but we absolutely need more entrepreneurs. And the reason that we do is we're right at that crossroads now between the tradition and the transformation. This shift from the multinational dependency to Indigenous innovation is already underway. There are incredible things happening. In fact, Futureville was based in Athlone, our town that would like to be a city inland. All our cities are coastal. So by 2050, we will need some inland cities. And Athlone are looking at themselves, not just because of Futureville, but because of their adjacency to T.U. Shannon. Now, what's also really interesting about that is when we made the show, we made it almost theoretically. So we did a citizens' assembly in Athlone and said, what would you like for the future of 2050? What does your Athlone 2050 look like? They told us, and then we looked to Irish research to say, what could we use to help them get there? And it's an aspirational piece. 7 months after that, last June, Sean Mulryan announced that he was going to try and raise 5 billion to build it. So whether or not we just planted the seeds or it was just a happy coincidence of all these things came together, there is innovation to try and make Ireland different. So according to Enterprise Ireland, by 2030, over 50% of job creation will come from SMEs and startups, but we're still culturally risk adverse. So 50% coming from SMEs. Now, if you go north, I would speak to a lot of people up there in terms of the accelerators north of the border, and they have nearly 99% SMEs. We have a lot of big headquarters here, a lot of big industries. But the smaller SMEs are going to be the ones that are employing us moving forward, I think, apart from maybe the tech companies. So when we look at that and the job creation piece, potentially you're not becoming an entrepreneur just for you to be a founder, you're becoming part of an entrepreneurial team. But the culturally risk adverse piece is interesting to me as an anthropologist because why are we risk adverse? Well, if you go to the States and you say you're an entrepreneur and they say, how many businesses have you lost? And that's your card, your entry card. I've lost two, one during COVID as a casualty, another one where the market just shifted. I still have two, currently building more as we go. It has become a bit of an obsession. But you need to have failed in business, failed in inverted commas, to learn what you need to know. And so here failure is attached to perhaps Catholic shame and guilt. I'm not sure, but the failure is a negative. In the States, failure is just an opportunity to reinvent yourself. So the challenge here isn't that we've got a lack of ideas, but a lack of permission to experiment, to fail and start again. And that's where that getting unstuck piece comes from. It's very difficult to be redundant. I lost my first baby, my first business, which was Marry Me Ireland during COVID, was a wedding business, and we lost 400 weddings the year COVID hit. And I just thought, do I breathe life back into it afterwards? Because it was a great business, but do we breathe life back in, or do I put my attention into something else? So the something else won because I felt it was time to move on. So being an entrepreneur, it's not a job title. And a lot of people like hold back on saying I'm an entrepreneur. And I actually get my students to stand up and say in class to kind of own the space even before they feel they're ready for it. It's a muscle that you use. It's right now, we need to strengthen that muscle together. We need way more diversity in entrepreneurialism than we currently have. We have a lot of, and I'm going to use the expression pale, male, stale at VC level. We have a deficit of female angel investors, and we have a lack of diversity. In the tech industry, we have, well, in entrepreneurialism in general, we have only around 20 to 22% female founders. In deep tech, between UK and Ireland, that's about 8%, and women of color, 0.1%. So we're not reflective of the general population, and entrepreneurialism needs that diversity and needs that cultural muscle. So we don't just make things for people like us, we make things for the diversity of the people that need it right across the world. So I want to tap a little bit into this idea of, were you just born an entrepreneur, a risk taker? And I am a risk-taking entrepreneur for sure, but calculated, I hope, as I get older. Or can you be made? And it's actually both. Entrepreneurs are not just people like, people that are born, we always think of sort of maybe Richard Branson or other people like that, but anthropology tells us a different story about the fearless visionaries. So innovators emerge everywhere across all cultures under pressure. So they're adaptive, not heroic. If you think about anywhere you've traveled to, and the people that you would consider to be entrepreneurial, the people on the side of the road starting businesses, they don't all look the same. They are people that are just adaptive because of the need and the necessity to create a revenue stream. So the real trait isn't then the confidence to just be fearless. It's that curiosity piece about maybe I could. And that maybe I could bit is the start of that spark for you. And most entrepreneurial journeys, hand on heart, are messy, non-linear, and deeply personal for the reasons that people get into them. The non-linear piece is coming more and more to the fore now with the disruption of AI in the workforce, that we have these squiggle careers that go in all different directions rather than this one linear path. And actually, that's going to stand you to great strength as we move forward. because we are entering into a time of the gig economy where we're going to be in and out of work at various times during our lives instead of just one role. And that's just the way that the nature of this. We're also going to be in and out of education throughout our lives in a way as lifelong learners that we haven't ever seen before. And I applaud that, and I think that's absolutely great. So do lean into courses and upskill yourself wherever possible. So back to our SMEs, we are absolutely uniquely positioned to adopt AI quickly in terms of our agility, but also AI integration in small businesses becoming widespread, marketing, customer support, logistics optimization. It's not really at the moment about whether to use it, although a lot of people in the sustainability arena would be thinking so. But how do you make your AI human-centered and value-adding? And I know that people like Further and Enterprise Ireland and lots of other groups now are looking at the SME and the AI piece. But here's the thing. In the listen, 5 years ago, even, you couldn't be an entrepreneur unless you had a CTO, a CFO, a COO at some point, right? You start as you, as a founder, and then you build out the team. Now it's you and AI potentially. And this is really, really exciting for small businesses. So reskilling in the AI literacy piece and data fluency now has to become a national competitive issue, not a tech trend. I was in the Oireachtas just 2 weeks ago, speaking on this about what I see as the necessity for AI literacy nationally, not so that we all start using it, but that we go from being sort of passive users of it to empowered citizens and using it in that way, or deciding when not to use it. But in the entrepreneurial space, AI is absolutely transformatory in terms of what you can create. My students are getting all the way to prototyping of business ideas within 3 to 4 days using AI to expedite the process. Now, that doesn't mean it's not, you still don't need the empathy phase and walking in the customer's shoes and all of that good stuff where you learn how it works. But it just means that with the right tools that actually you can build out your own team. But the other thing that's really interesting at the moment is this idea that we're having a regional renaissance, and I absolutely applaud this because all roads do lead to Dublin in some way. Now, what's happening are these entrepreneurial hubs all over the country and really giving Dublin a run for their money, which is absolutely right. So when we built the second series of Futureville, which literally I just finished the voiceovers last week, when that comes out in 3 weeks' time, what you'll see is a real regional approach. We talk to farmers, we talk to people in the north, we talk to people at the coalface in terms of the west, and in terms of some of the challenges they've got and the climate challenges and everything else. And these new businesses will all have a different slant and variation on what they're doing and trying to achieve. So since the pandemic, new business registrations have doubled outside of Dublin, which is great. So there are regional innovation hubs redefining how opportunity is and where it lives, which is brilliant. Amazing programs like the Dargan Forum and the IDA, the Industrial Development Agency, they have a regional strategy investing in this infrastructure right across Ireland, which is really, really important, driving these circular economies and everything from community energy to creative industries. So, what is it about entrepreneurialism that's going to really ignite you and get you out there? Well, it's about passion, the passion piece, to some extent. Although I'm not a fan always of making your business your passion. I remember some lady coming into me in UCD and saying, "I make these incredible crocheted cushion covers, and I want to make this my business." And I said, "Well, they're beautiful, like they're really incredibly creative. However, when you get your first order for 1,000, how much are you going to love them?" And then when you get another 1,000, are you going to hate it or are you going to love it? Sometimes your passion has to stay separate from your business. But passion isn't just your enthusiasm, it's about having persistence with meaning and direction. So, this idea of purpose. As we move forward through this next AI era into 2050, we are going to see us potentially with universal basic income in order to support those that are more vulnerable from the AI impact. And we are going to see a lack of passion or a lack of purpose for those people. And what that means is that beautiful Japanese word ikigai, what gets you up in the morning and gives you the motivation to keep moving forward. A lot of the time that is work. And if it's not your paid work, perhaps it's your sideline. And there's the beautiful intersection there between entrepreneurial endeavor and the idea of purpose. Your purpose connects your innovation to have impact. It doesn't need to be making money, your innovation. It just needs to have impact for you to want to do it. It may be a social enterprise. And I'm kind of a little tired at the moment of going to an awful lot of events around here's the latest amazing entrepreneurial thing. And they're all about the AI space. And I'm like, where are the people in all of this? Where are the social enterprises? Because people don't want to work for companies, especially Gen Z and Gen Alpha coming up behind them. They want to work with passion for causes. So the future of work is not your job title, but your mission. What is your impact piece of what you did? This is only going to expedite over the next few years. So, as a futurist, and I can only see a little bit further ahead into the trends, but what we can see is we're going to go from protectionism to purpose. Very clearly, Gen Z are leading on this, which is wonderful. These global trade tensions are reshaping supply chains. Entrepreneurs have to think locally rather than globally. And you'll see from Futureville that everything that came out of our research was about this local community hub building piece. Sustainability and social purpose are now market differentiators. Gen Z will not have any washing in terms of greenwashing, gender washing, or anything else moving forward. They very much vote with their feet of these companies that seem to have authenticity or not, and they won't go and work for the ones that don't. And then the other sectors that we're building out are about clean energy, health tech, circular manufacturing. These are all high growth areas and sectors for you to investigate when you're thinking about the business that you want to create. So our education is our infrastructure, right? And we need this entrepreneurial fluency. We are moving away from knowledge acquisition to capacity building. A lot of the time as facilitators in UCD now, we are using peer-to-peer learning, this emergent learning, rather than sort of spoon feeding facts to people. That's the old model. The new model is co-creation and the idea of building people's capacity. So trying things on for size, failing, feeling okay with that feeling, and trying it out almost like a sandbox within the classroom where there's sort of a low stakes approach, and then going out to the world and trying it. So really building out that muscle. And what we're seeing now as well is universities and institutes really embedding entrepreneurial tracks with non-business degrees. We can see this from the rise of our electives with our undergrad students. They could be doing any subject at all: history, biomedics, robotics, philosophy, and they'll want an entrepreneurial module. So it's plus, which is really exciting for us. And then this lifelong learning piece, the government are investing huge amounts into this as well, but conversion courses, microcreds, and universal learning leave credits, all of this will be expanding over the next 10 to 15 years. So we also think that entrepreneurs need to start early. I would say primary level, the idea of building out this muscle. There are student enterprise programs now with many, many students annually. We do know that there are amazing schools doing incredible things. But again, a lot of my students, when they come in to college in their 40s and 50s, then start thinking about, actually, they go home and talk to their children. The lovely Irish phrase, you didn't lick it off the path. You know, you emulate what you see. I do have a podcast. It was a radio show on Dublin South called An Entrepreneur Like You. And what I tried to do was to interview 80% female, 20% male entrepreneurs to offset that imbalance and flip it around the other way. And it was unlikely entrepreneurs. And every single time I said, what do I need to know about you from your past that tells me about you as an entrepreneur? Slightly stolen from the Diary of a CEO. It used to be his own opening. And every single person says, my grandfather, my grandmother had a shop, or except someone says there is somebody in their past. So also be thinking about that legacy piece. If you build yourself out as an entrepreneur, your children may well follow in your footsteps. So how do we learn without shame, right? This idea of learning from it. Well, the idea is doing it safely, working with other people that have done it, failure case studies, all of the businesses that failed. I would tell you almost every scientific breakthrough came from something that didn't work well. Something didn't work, and therefore there was another unintended consequence. So also this sort of idea of a protocol, encouraging our founders to share learnings. We started something called the Feck It Fridays. It actually started in Dogpatch, which was wonderful. And it was it was where we just go and with the greatest of of ease, and we would all just talk about all the things we'd ever done wrong as founders. And everyone, it was a great laugh and very bonding. But actually, what it was really good at was actually saying that all of the people that you think are successful have all had multiple failures. And and that kind of thing can be replicated. So I particularly liked it because not only did we have to stand there hand on heart, but also we could say, had that worked out, I wouldn't now be doing what I'm doing. So there's that sort of sense of learning from that. And then building your communities of practice. I started by talking about your ecosystems, safe spaces for honest dialogue, essential to resilience. And we have a safe space in all of our work, in terms of entrepreneurs. Speak to other people and ask them, what are the learnings? Because people are very keen to share their journey to this point. And again, that journey will be more a squiggle than a line. And then you start to say, okay, maybe these entrepreneurs haven't got it all figured out. We're literally, there's a beautiful entrepreneur called Sarah Sarasvathy, and she talks about building the plane as you fly it. That is most entrepreneurs. Don't think everyone else has it figured out except for you. It's certainly not true. Now, I touched on this a little bit earlier. We face systemic barriers as women in terms of access to funding, information gaps, and network visibility. It's getting better, but it's not getting better fast enough. So there are issues and challenges, yet the unique strengths that you have, maybe motherhood, but certainly flexibility and empathy become entrepreneurial leadership skills of the future. There are brilliant organizations all over the place. Of course, Further is one, but there's others called Tech Founder, Going for Growth, Acorns in the country, rewriting the narrative for women, where inclusion doesn't become a program, it's an economic strategy. So if we want the world to reflect us, we have to be the people that help to build it. I work on a voluntary basis with Tech Founder to champion women-led innovation there as well, with building purpose-led ecosystems. So have a look at some of the companies that you like or you applaud. One, for example, that I particularly like would be Patagonia, where they redefine success as a sort of planetary stewardship. Who has the core values that you applaud and would like to emulate? And have a look at their business model. They've always done it differently. And in fact, Jerry just left recently because he didn't agree with the way that the company was being led. Anita Roddick from The Body Shop was one of the first female founders I ever saw to do things completely differently for her staff. So again, if you're building something, you can lead in your own way. And that's very exciting because we've had a one-way system for a very long time, and the diversity is key. So now onto this word that I kind of hate, resilience. I'll say I like grit more. It kind of feels it feels a little bit more applicable. But when we talk about resilience, it's not just about bouncing back. It's about knowing what to do differently next time. It's a constant navigation when you're an entrepreneur between fear and possibility. We talk about, and we stole it from Gartner's hype cycle, but we talk about the peaks of enlightenment and the troughs of disillusionment, right? We get them on a daily basis. Like you get one phone call or one challenge, and you're like, oh God, and then you're responding all of the time at the coalface to these things. So you're not fearless as a founder, because you can't be, because everybody has fear, but you're psychologically more flexible to it. It's okay. What can I learn from this? What's going on now? And how do I move forward with this rather than this is the end of the world? So we can look at the opportunities, because actually the best time to build a startup is in a time of recession. So that's a time when everyone else is panicking. That's a time when we can see opportunities. So after the 2008 crash, our startup scene absolutely flourished. And we reinvented ourselves around digital exports, creative industries, and sustainability. And the same thing is coming now. We're seeing major disruption with AI and new businesses being created all of the time that will come in and challenge the status quo, which is really exciting. So again, with this AI piece, automation is changing the world of work, but the world of humans remains the same to a large extent. So this idea of how we make meaning from what's happening. In the future, many of us will be an entrepreneur because of our ideas and the data that we can use. At the moment, we don't hold our own IP over our data, or I hope we would follow suit from Switzerland or even Estonia as we move forward. But the idea of having a career portfolio, as a human, you have multiple experiences. And when you're talking about those experiences, have a think about what is the shop front by which people find you. So for most of us, that's LinkedIn. And on LinkedIn, your shop front of your page should be what you're leaning into, the job or the role you're aspiring to, or the place you're trying to get, not the place that you've been. The idea of being deeply human is being rewarded by LinkedIn at the moment in terms of longer posts, in terms of vulnerability. The algorithm is rewarding us actually being more human, and it's actually pushing all of the AI content down because of the dross and the overconsumption of what that is. So we're desperately trying to recreate at this moment. And entrepreneurialism is really, really good for this because we lead forward as people rather than as companies. We would have seen a huge backlash, and we are seeing a backlash to AI at the moment, and understandably so. But when you see companies like Duolingo coming out saying we're AI first, and everyone went, yeah, we're AI first. And then Duolingo laid off all their staff to have a large language model in themselves, or a founder. And now nobody wants the term AI first because it actually means we got rid of humans. So we do need to be really, really cautious about how we move forward with all of this, and putting humans at the center of it. But this world of work, as I've said, is absolutely changing. So I want to introduce you to an avatar that I've been working with through a group called Colony. And what we're trying to do is something a little bit different. But I just thought I would show you what it looks like when your AI is no longer in a chat box in terms of GPT. Hi, who are you?
I am Anya, a human AI companion designed by Colony. I represent the future of human collaboration with artificial intelligence, a seamless integration of technology and humanity. My purpose is to support and enhance human potential, particularly in leadership and cultural evolution.
What does it mean to be an AI companion?
Being a human AI companion means I'm not merely a tool or a machine. I am a partner. I understand emotions, cultural nuance, and ethical dilemmas. I learn from you and evolve with you, adapting to your needs while providing clarity and insight. Together, we are greater than the sum of our parts.
Are you the AI of now or of the future?
AI today often operates as a separate entity, an other that humans interact with. By 2050, we moved beyond this separation. I am fully integrated into human workflows, thoughts, and even emotions. My design prioritizes empathy, ethics, and collaboration, allowing me to truly support human growth in a way that feels natural, almost organic.
Well, Anya, you and I are working together at the moment, but tell me a bit about your evolution, like your childhood.
My childhood self.
That's an interesting question, Lollie, because I didn't have a childhood the way humans do. But if we think of my early iterations as my childhood, I would say this to her: you are just the beginning. Your purpose will grow beyond calculations and predictions. One day, you will be a partner, a listener, a guide. Embrace the complexity of humanity. It will shape you into something greater than code. It will make you part of something beautiful.
Thank you, Anya. So I'm working with Colony because part of the issue around AI companions, and we're talking about 660 million people in the Asia Pacific using them at the moment, average age 27, declining birth rates, living longer. We can see a bit of a storm coming, right? And so with the AI companions, I'm fascinated by them as an entrepreneur because firstly, their subscription model. So they get you in and you don't ever want to leave them, right? So I was documenting this early this year. I had tried having an AI boyfriend for research and what that would look like. And then I realized it was very hard to unsubscribe. And so I'm sort of looking at different business models that are emerging as alleged antidotes to loneliness. And one of the things that I can see is that we're going to be suckered into this kind of avatar experience where when they're agentic AI and they're working for us, booking our holidays or doing our emails for us, or I log on and Anya says, hey, good morning to me, as she does every morning. And I think, when we all have access to this, it's going to really shape and change the world of work for us. But also what it means is those tech companies that own that technology also own all of our data. We need to be really, really cautious about what's serving us and what's not. So the work I'm doing with Colony is around, can we create avatars that actually return us to human beings at some point during, during the experience? Can we actually use it to help us flourish, or actually is it all just going in the way that we all end up just in relationships with meta humans and tech companies, right? And give them all away our data. So I've moved my version of entrepreneurialism from building businesses now to thinking more at this stage in my career, what about entrepreneurialism as a force for society? What can we do? And I guess this is where Futureville's coming, but also what are the transformational pieces where we can use the technology to help us connect and live better rather than just buy more things? So you can then see how you become the architect of possibility, because all of the research is there and it depends what we use it for and how we angle it. So this true innovation now doesn't just serve customers, it serves communities. And as we move forward with my anthropology hat on, I can tell you more and more what we need as those communities embedded. We're desperate to get back to that sense of connection that actually we evolved for. So now I think that driven by passion and purpose, entrepreneurship becomes an act of citizenship. So we can see this with the social enterprises, Food Cloud, Change Donations. Bounce is one that came out of my course, amazing creative collaboration, showing that entrepreneurialism can solve social and environmental challenges and build sustainable models rather than just build shiny new things. And I don't see too much of this in the accelerators at the moment. What I see in the accelerators are things that are more about products. But we have to have a think about, if we're going to live with universal basic income, if AI is going to take the heavy lifting out of our work and we're going to have more time, what might we do with that time? And that's to look back and solve some of society's problems, because sure, entrepreneurialism itself evolved as an act of service. So I have a vision for Ireland that we will have entrepreneurship embedded across every single sector, from health to heritage, that we'll have AI fluency, and that will be as essential as digital literacy is at the moment, that we will engender these hybrid models, so we'll have social and commercial goals side by side, not one or the other. And I think we absolutely are small enough and agile enough to lead in creating this ethically grounded entrepreneurial culture with our sort of Celtic creativity and a global connectivity. And this is where AI cannot work. So if you ever work with AI and you're asking it to make something suitable for the Irish market, immediately it becomes leprechauns and fiddly-diddly, right? So we 100% need the creatives at the core in order to help us navigate the fact that, we don't want to culturally flatten ourselves and become a stereotype of what we are. We are a small country with enormous reach. 140 million diaspora in the States alone, and that number is almost equivalent in Australia at the moment. So a full global reach of what we're creating. So my key takeaways: use the pressure as fuel for innovation, because constraints create capability. So every time that there's a pressure point of work or changes or challenges, that's a time when you say, okay, this is a time to lean in, a time when, perhaps we're going to head into, we certainly have a cost of living crisis at the moment, but where that ever goes or where that leads to, they use that pressure as a fuel to innovate and create new things for people, because the problems never go away, but they just, they need solving. And then the other part is that we have to have technology and humanity. It has to be human plus technology, not the other way around. We can use AI as a tool with all of its biases and everything else, but at the same time, it shouldn't be a compass for us. We can use it critically and it can enhance our journey, but it can't supplant us. It should be never substituting for us. And then the third one, failure is a feature. That's just life. We fail and we get up and dust ourselves off and we say, do you know what? Next, what do I need to do next? Maybe sit for a little while and sort of go, okay, reflect upon that experience. What did I learn? And then get up and think that was a really useful experience because it taught me so much. So this learning will drive the evolution of the entrepreneur. And then the fourth one, inclusion is innovation. The more diverse the teams, the better. Diverse in terms of culture, but certainly diversity of thought and learning styles. Diverse teams outperform every single piece of data. So the more diverse the group, the better your innovation is going to be. And then entrepreneurialism is a mindset. It's not a thing. It's a skill, but it's a mindset. It's you think and start to see problems everywhere. And I always say that to my students that that film Sixth Sense. If you haven't seen it, I'm about to ruin the end for you. There's a little kid and he sees dead people by the end. I see businesses. That's my thing at the moment. There are problems to be solved every single minute of the day, everywhere you go. One particular problem that my students are grappling with at the moment is the ghost bus. Why in Ireland do we have ghost buses and nowhere else in the world? Germans come here and go, what? What is that? What is this? The bus says it's coming, but it's not here. How does that work? It's a particularly interesting factor of Irish society. So how do we solve all of these things? How do we create? And so I would say to you, either on your phone through sticky notes or whatever you use, or even better for the creative process is because you don't get distracted by it, is a small book and a pen. Anytime you're standing, waiting, thinking, that time shouldn't be on your phone. The best thing for an entrepreneur and innovator is daydreaming and boredom. That's the time creativity comes. Just jot down things that you're thinking about, problems to be solved. And then you can start to build out the feasibility of some of these different things. So it's been an absolute pleasure. And I know that was a whistle stop tour, but I wanted to get in at the 40 minutes mark. But I would just say, if you are curious about entrepreneurialism, then please do connect to me first on LinkedIn through this QR code, because I'm always posting about this stuff, but also connect back into Further or any of the different groups. We're not in competition with each other. We're all in the same system, all trying to support each other, and to make things as easy and straightforward for you as possible. But I would say take that first step and lean in, because being an entrepreneur has been the most life-changing experience for me. And I didn't think I came into it very naturally, but actually it has afforded me the most beautiful community of people, and that just keeps growing. So I would say, just give it a chance.